Welcome to our latest design-inspired healthcare webinar, where we like to invite medical innovators to share their journey with the greater community. This month, we're joined by Professor Andrew DiMeo. He's the Senior Product Manager at Greenlight Guru. He's the former Professor of Biomedical Engineering, Senior Design at UNC and NCSU. He's the CEO and founder of Canvas GT Now Strategy, which was recently acquired by Greenlight Guru, where he's developing a medical device success platform that we'll talk more about today. He's been a consultant to many organizations on design thinking, process of innovation, and entrepreneurial mindset. He's even spent some time with our Trig team as innovation and design coach as well. So we're really happy to have you here, Andrew. Welcome.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. And thanks so much for the kind introduction here and then the marketing for the event. I was like, who is that guy? I want to meet him. Too kind, sincerely.
Oh my gosh. I think you're too kind for being here as well. And just in general, I think a good place to get started would just be at the origin. I noticed that you worked in the film industry very early on. I think back in the 90s. And so what was that time like for you in the New York film industry back then? And how did this time set you up for the rest of your career post-grad as a designer?
Oh man, it really is the foundation for everything, especially when it comes to design. I was part of designing sets, being a set dresser and a property person in New York City's film industry. And I really got lucky. I got lucky to work on acclaimed productions like The Sopranos, as an example. And everything from working under pressure to having no ego. It was really about the team. It was about the crew. Like the whole crew does this production and there's a crew party at the end. And so there might be some stars on the stage that get a lot of the accolades, but I think everyone that's in the film industry really appreciates the crew that brings something together like this. Just learning about teamwork really is the foundation for me. Thinking in terms of this topic, so we're talking about evolutionary design today, right? And so the thing that jumped to my mind was how a script evolved over the course of a show. So in something like The Sopranos, it might take us, I can't actually remember if it took us a week or 2 weeks to film one episode. It's been so long ago, but I think it was about a week-ish to film one episode. And on the very first day of the shoot, we would get a 3-ring binder and it was the white script. And it was all the pages were white and we would read it. We'd read it before the first day of shooting. So maybe we'd get it a week before or something like that. But every single day we'd be issued pages that were revisions. So it'd be like, we'd get the blue pages. And those pages, you just get a little tiny stack of blue pages and you'd insert them in and pull out the white and insert the blue. And then there'd be the green pages and the pink pages. And by the end of the episode, I've got a few of these like literally in my attic in a box somewhere, some of the scripts that we worked on, The Sopranos, and it would be a rainbow of colors. So it's like the script itself evolved over the course of the episode. And so those rainbow colored 3-ring binder scripts might be my very first introduction to what is evolutionary design.
That's incredible. What season did you work on the show?
I worked on the very first season, not the pilot episode,
wow.
But that very first season, my brother, he was the prop master who hired me. I was the young guy. He worked for, I don't know, the first 4 seasons or more. There's a little trivia thing, which the production company asked to use our last name as the name of the head of the crime family. So if you look at the Sopranos crime family, Ercole DiMeo is the head of the Sopranos crime family.
Wow. How cool is that? Yeah, I recently watched a documentary about The Sopranos and how it changed the game for the film industry and distribution thereafter. I digress. I think let's move on now to after you finished your master's in bioengineering and just had so much going for you at that point. I feel within 5 years after graduating, you worked as a design engineer, you founded Galero and the North Carolina Medical Device Organization. You founded your consulting firm, you started teaching at UNC. It's just so many things going on. And was this sort of like the life that you hoped to have lived when you were a kid? And also, what lessons did you learn about client-based services and entrepreneurship during this time as well?
The life that I hoped to have lived, I don't know that I knew of any other life. There was a really short period of time, there was maybe a 2-year period of time where I was doing a 9-to-5 gig at Alaris Medical Systems as a design engineer. And I think I'm going to be 50 this year. And in like my whole entire life, like I remember I was an entrepreneur when I was a paper boy. We could take like half of an episode on my entrepreneurial endeavors as a paper boy in middle school. But from like literally from being a paper boy to working in the movie business to being a professor to starting these companies to where I am today with Canvas GT getting acquired by Greenlight Guru, I've lived the life of an entrepreneur that whole entire time. So I don't know that I knew or know of anything different. But yeah, when it comes to entrepreneurship and especially entrepreneurship, I'll talk about that more specifically. What I've learned, what I learned then, and what I continue to learn, and Ty helped teach me this too, is that entrepreneurship is a social service. Right. I think that oftentimes, especially in school, entrepreneurship is taught as this way to grow, scale, big business, lots of money. And I don't see that in reality. In reality, I see people that sacrifice their own prosperity to provide prosperity for others. It's about creating jobs. It's about doing good and creating jobs. And yeah, I kind of learned early on, and I continue to learn that entrepreneurship is really a social service.
You started your career at UNC and then MCSU, essentially at the same time as your consulting firm, which is really interesting. And in both cases, you're educating people on process of innovation, design thinking, the entrepreneurial mindsets. But I feel like the context in this two is very different. And how did you differentiate these teachings where you're teaching the students versus teaching essentially startup founders or people in various firms?
Yeah, that was really important. That was a critical time for me. I was among the very first cohort of biomedical engineering faculty that were changing the way that we taught biomedical innovation, entrepreneurship, design. So back in 2006, it was the year that, I don't know if you're familiar with BME Idea, the Innovation Design and Entrepreneurship Alliance was formed about that time. The Biodesign book that came out of Stanford came out in 2010. So this was the very beginning of this. And I'll just sort of wrap it all into the word biodesign. I guess Stanford gets a lot of the credit, but if I say this biodesign process worked really well in a bubble, like it worked really well inside this academic setting where you could create this, hey, we're going to identify unmet needs in a hospital, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. I got known for being one of the innovators of this process. And so I would get invited to do it and, of course, consult this practice in many settings, from businesses to medical societies to NIH grant awardees, researchers, just like this huge gamut. And it didn't take me long to realize that it didn't work. Because if you started with like pure biodesign, I would notice that people would just fall asleep instantly. It's, oh, identify an unmet need. And they would just like sleep. We did that a long time ago. And that was also huge in this whole, like, how do new medical innovations, how does any innovation evolve? And what does that design process actually look like? And it looked like none of them. And it just taught me that there's these key ingredients in design, innovation, and entrepreneurship that get sprinkled in but don't happen in any particular order. Seeing all those different settings was just, I got really lucky again, just to have so many different perspectives.
Did you ever get to, I think it's just a random question, but did you ever get to meet any student later on that was your student for your medical engineering classes and then ended up like working with you in some capacity later on, or you met them at some firm that you were consulting, you're like, wow, no way.
All of the above, right? I think probably so the students have become attorneys, doctors, important positions at large medical device companies. I think one of the funnest was when starting Canvas GT and getting acquired by Greenlight Guru. I was out like pitching for who are going to be some of our early adopters. I started making some cold calls into, I won't say the name of the company, but at any rate, basically at the end of the day, one of my former students was the one that I'm pitching to. I was like, man, the tables are like, this is a
Wow.
perfect opportunity. Like I would grade their presentations and tell them everything that they did wrong. And I was pretty strict with the students. I was like, man, this could really come back to haunt me. You got the stick to do the grading, but it's at like much higher stakes right now. So that was a lot of fun.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I'm sure that your work well prepared them for that moment too. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Ty, if you had something before.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wanted to drill down when you say that biodesign doesn't work. When you think about the rigor that's involved with biodesign with, step 1 through 57, like, do you mind elaborating on that a bit more?
Yeah, biodesign works great in the setting of the way Stanford has it set up, or in the way that maybe the programs that emulate biodesign. It works fantastic. The analogy that I like to use is the book The Goal by L.U.M. Goldratt. Did I say that right? I can't pronounce it.
Yeah, that's good. Yep.
In The Goal, you can be running a manufacturing facility and you could take the time to set up the leanest, meanest process in that manufacturing facility. You just can't cut and paste that into another manufacturing facility. It doesn't work over here. So what I found was biodesign got a lot of credit, which it should, that they were like cutting and pasting it into very similar looking factories. And it was running really well. And it does work absolutely great. It works as good as the Toyota production system works in a Toyota manufacturing facility. But once you got outside of that, then if you just tried to cut and paste it, it didn't work.
Makes sense. So it's like at a fractal level, it doesn't necessarily scale up or down outside of the conditions it was built within.
Exactly.
I think you brought it up before about how you've worked with a ton of companies, you started a ton of companies. And so is there one sort of product that sticks out to you, or one company that sticks out to you that you're just like super proud of, that you just hang your hat on at the end of the day?
No, it's the people that have impacted me and the people that I've had the chance to impact. And maybe that's another thing that weighs heavy on me as an entrepreneur and someone that, when I think about this being a social service, right? It's like, what I've done in the classroom might have changed the course of people's lives, right? And that weighs heavy on me. Much more heavy when I convince dad with children to quit his well-paying job and join my startup company, and then 2 years later it fails and they have to sell their house and pick up and move to a new place. That's for real. That's for real. That's the stuff that I lose sleep at night. But when I think about that same person would say that the time that they spent at the company that we started was the most meaningful time of his life and his career, right? And the lives that I've impacted and those people that have impacted my lives are the most important thing.
Incredible. I've never heard of it being called a social service before. I love that take. I think it's really interesting. And also, I think, I'm sure you've seen it over the past 5 years or so, maybe even longer. Entrepreneurialism has been like a trend, I guess you could say. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, and they don't really understand that not everyone makes it. There's a lot of failure that comes in with being an entrepreneur, and not everyone's really ready for that. It's an interesting trend that I hope still continues, but at the same time, people understand a bit more of like really what it takes, and it takes a ton out of you and a ton of confidence and a ton of belief and just so much more. But now we're really getting to the meat of this one here. So let's get into the design thinking aspect of this. So how does design thinking enable evolutionary design? But then after that, why should companies consider using it? And then where do companies actually go wrong when they're trying to implement it? I feel like that's another aspect of it as well.
Yeah, so what is evolutionary design anyway? And honestly, how should companies use it? I think that evolutionary design is how we naturally operate. And maybe in a minute, I can give a demo on how we're enabling it, right? But we're enabling, I think, something that's really natural. The way that I like to think about design, and if you're in the medical device industry, the word design controls can be a buzzword, right? I ask people, tell me what you think when you hear design controls. And the answers I get back are like constrains creativity, it's a process, it's a hurdle, all these like really negative things. That's really bothered me because when I hear design control, I hear control something, you control things that are really important, right? You might control a manufacturing process to produce the same output the same way every time. My favorite example of where does creativity and control and maybe an evolutionary process manifest itself would be in cuisine and food. Think about 5-star or Michelin star restaurant. You have to have a creative genius chef who's coming up with some new dish that is a new gastro experience. And at the same time, they've got to produce this dish over and over again, cooked by many different chefs, because the same chef's not cooking it every single time. And it's got to come out like perfect. So when anybody goes into the restaurant at any time, they get this 5-star experience, right? That's, to me, that's creativity and control. And we want to control how that dish is served every time. So now, how does that dish evolve? What is the evolutionary process? And I think we live it, maybe some of us do, in our kitchens. And my experience is this: it's like, I want to perfect a pizza. Every time I make a pizza, I do a little bit different. I do a little bit different, and then nail it. Just, this is the one. This is the one. And I look at my wife and I'm like, what did we do? It's like, I think this time we let the dough rest longer. I think maybe we did this. And it's, yeah, but each time we were making pizza, we were making little adjustments here and there. If you look at chef's life, they've got this notebook of going back pages to, wait, I had this many grams of flour. Wait, no, I did this many grams. No, I did this many, but it was like back there. And then they moved. And they've got this notebook. And when they nail it, they can kind of like put all the pieces together of that evolutionary process. And then it's like, it is controlled, right? That's, to me, what defines evolutionary design. And then how can we put that to practice in what we do in innovating new medical devices?
That's such a cool analogy. It also brings to mind what you opened with, the script, and how you'd have rainbow pages throughout the evolution of an episode. You've got that latitude to make changes because you're in pursuit of what works. But then you also have a process for controlling communication across a team where each person is worried about execution and getting it right and being efficient. You just made something click for me in a unique way there. So anyway, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. And so did you also have a demo for us as well?
Yeah, so I'll show you if I can indulge everybody and share my screen. This is maybe also, not maybe, it's also a shameless plug for Greenlight Guru strategies. I'm going to share my screen and you guys just give me thumbs up if you're seeing good. All right. And of course, I got to always redo my Zoom because I need you guys big so I can talk to you and also look at what I'm doing. So I'm just going to start here with a trace matrix. This might be common to people that have worked in the medical device industry, that we've got user needs, design inputs, design outputs, and then verification and validation. It looks a little different, the user research and the concepts, because we're really thinking early stage concept development as opposed to maybe a final medical device. And so this might look pretty familiar. This layout might look pretty familiar to people. Those of us in the medical device industry who've had to do design controls, I like to do them, but for those of us that had to do them and didn't have a good way to do them, a lot of us shot ourselves in the foot by doing this as a stage gate. In other words, we thought that we had to define all of the user needs first. Once we had them defined, we could enter into design inputs. We're allowed to start brainstorming solutions after we have defined the unmet need. And then we can have a design review about the inputs and move to the outputs. And then we can figure out how we're going to verify and validate things. It absolutely, positively does not happen this way. I've never seen anybody actually work this way. And so here's the key, is the word iterative, right? If you actually read the design control guidance document from the FDA, they've got this little blurb that not too many people read, which says, in practice, this would be iterative. But I don't think processes are iterative either. Iterative would suggest that we're going to think of a need and then develop an input, think of an input, then design it, the output, and then verify it and validate it, and then go back and do some more user needs and more inputs and outputs. We build this up from top left, move across a row and then another. That's how it would build. But we don't work iteratively either. When you're working on a puzzle or something, maybe there's a part of it where you want to do the border first to define the boundaries, but then that puzzle grows, it evolves, right? It's an evolutionary process. It's not an iterative process. Nearly all design processes are shown in some sort of flow and some sort of iterative thing. I think it's misleading. I think that we can try to do it that way, but it actually constrains us, and we still don't do it that way. We still don't actually follow that iterative process. What we really do is evolutionary. And so we end up being the chef that's not the chef. We end up being the cook with no notebook. And when we finally get that pizza done, we have to reverse engineer the pizza to figure out how to get to that pizza because we're the cook, not the chef. And so I wanted to enable what we really do. We do evolutionary design. So I'll kind of show you some of the secret sauce in this. This example that I'm showing is Novacor Medical Systems. It's the company that I started with a couple of guys and failed, and then somebody had to move. We did get it all the way through.
Oh, man.
We got it through a 510K clearance. So I love this as an example because it was an incredibly successful project, from classroom to startup company to raising money to getting it through a 510K clearance for sale on the market. And it was really a funding round that got missed. It was really about market and economics, which is why it didn't make it. So it's a fantastic example. And I'll quickly take you through just a workflow. We might start with brainstorming needs. I put this one in the middle, which is enable evolutionary design. So you can learn more and sign up at gg-strategy.com. That's my shameless plug, right? And so people might think when we're brainstorming needs, people are thinking like final pizza, and people are thinking like we need flour in an oven that we can get up to 550 degrees or whatever. People are thinking neurologically and tech survival rate. People are thinking highly conductive tubing. People are all over the map. And the tool that we're providing allows this left and right brain thinking. We can see things in boards and we can see things in tables. But what becomes more interesting is that we can move between different workflows. We can say, hey, we're brainstorming needs here, but I want to start to abstract those needs. And you don't see the purple note. That was the enable evolutionary design. So what we do to move from one place to another, there's a filter, and it's saying, hey, we had this note board where we're brainstorming needs, and I just want to see what was on that note board. Keep your eye on all these notes over here. When I do that, you just get this purple one. I can say this is an unmet need, and I'm going to put it here in user needs. And so we can start to level things by, are they really high level needs, like improved neurologically intact survival rate? Are they more like a needs statement? We want to reduce the time from arrival to delivering the therapy. Are they low level? Are they ideas? Are they actually technologies? But we're trying to shake out these user needs. And so that's this process that we're going through. In this case, the table looks different. In this case, the table looks like these different categories. What I'm not showing you yet, I'm not going to show you on this board, is something that we call traceability. So we've gone through this process, and then I want to start building a trace matrix. This is what I was showing you earlier. This was the trace matrix that looked familiar to you. But in its board format, it looks more like, if you're familiar with something like business model canvas, it looks like a canvas with some creative constraints around it where we can put things like user needs. Again, in this case, we might have gone through this work to say, hey, we've gone through this work to figure out what are the user needs, so I can find just this enable evolutionary design, and I can maybe put it in here as one of the user needs. And then if I turn off all the filters so that you can see everything, one of the things that's really cool is that we can build traceability right on the board, and we can start to see how we can enable trace. So we're building traceability like this. But as far as evolution is concerned, I'll go back to just creating some notes.
Andrew, could you define
Yeah.
real quick traceability for maybe people that aren't familiar with traceability and trace matrix?
Yeah, for medical device product development, it's a requirement to show that the design input came from a user need and the design output came from that input, and that you verify that the outputs meet the inputs and you validate that the final product meets the user need. So if it's something like a toothbrush, it's like the user needs to clean the teeth. Does it clean the teeth? That's validation. The verification is, did I build something exactly to the specifications of a toothbrush? This is the requirement that you have to do. This is the part of design controls that people think, they think this is the controlling thing. But actually what the FDA was saying was control your process, if that makes any sense. Do good design. And so most people then implemented a stage-gated process as their controlled process, which created this need to input to output. You could create a controlled iterative process. What I've never seen before is a controlled evolutionary process, but there's no reason why you can't. There's like the FDA would not say, no, you can't do a controlled evolutionary process. You absolutely can do an evolutionary process, but this is the trace matrix. It's really hard though to visualize this in a table. And this sort of gets to the point of, if I show off traceability here, that this need here is validated by this to this concept, right? Or this output here is verified by this verification test to this output. This output here. This output is verified to this input, right? You can see where your holes are in a visual way, right? I can show off for you while I'm doing this that one of the things that you can do is link to anything. So here I've got a meta-analysis literature review of this manuscript. Then I can link to that manuscript. So you can link to anything that has a link, whether it be interview notes in your Google Drive or whatever. Of course, this purple one here is going to link to the homepage for strategy where you get to sign up. Now, here's the thing. This is my plug for everybody. What marketing at Greenlight Guru wants you to do is they want you to go to this website and then sign up for early access here. But I'm not a rule follower. So you can either go to gg-strategy.com and then it'll take you to that link I showed you, and then you can sign up for early access, or you can just read, up there.
Grab a screenshot of that.
If you can't wait, if you don't want to sign up, if you don't want to sign up for anything, you just start using it anyway.
Andrew, you're the master of dropping in a pro tip into your talk.
Maybe I've done bad at dropping in pro tips. So what I want to say here is, I'll use these purple notes just so that they stand out. What I've seen, like the reality of things is, ooh, I've got an idea. Ooh, I've got an idea. Oh, I got another idea. And let me pop this out. One of the issues that I've had with all of these like visual collaboration tools is zooming in and zooming out to see what I'm trying to look at. And so we built this side panel so you can see the big picture, but you can zoom in without zooming in by being able to read what's over here to the right. I've got an idea. Then people sit around there like, how are we going to make that, right? They're like thinking in terms of inputs and they're thinking in terms of outputs. Then maybe somebody says to them like, does anybody want that? Does anybody care about that? And so then maybe you start doing some user research, right? And you're not really doing any user needs or verification or validation until way late, that it's at some point, so we got something real here. Hey guys, like we should really sit down and define our user needs. So let's define them here. And that's why it's not happening in an iterative way. It's happening in this evolutionary way. You can start to be strategic about, okay, wait, so how are we going to do this verification here? Because we got to verify it to that. And we've got to verify this output to that input, right? So you can start to visualize it here. And then, of course, it'll start to grow on the table. So this is really the essence of evolutionary. I think that this was the seed that started the whole thing. I'll show you one more thing before we finish the demo, because you've seen the output here is this table. Maybe at some point we want to do a new thing, which is use a jobs to be done process called importance satisfaction to try to see how stakeholders rank or prioritize the unmet needs. I'm going to spin up this brand new importance satisfaction here. And when I add that canvas, what you'll see is all of the notes that we've ever created are over here, but there's nothing on the board. And again, what I want to do is I really just want to go and see those user needs. That's the thing that I want to go and say, how important is this need to you? How satisfied are you by this need being served today? And so when I do that, you can see how this dropped down to a manageable list. Then I can use the side panel to say, oh, this is incredibly important and I'm incredibly dissatisfied. So it's going to go all the way down here. I can't possibly do that. So we're going to give that the highest ranking, of course. And something like little to no impact on the protocol, like you have to do, that's table stakes. Deliver therapy without access to external power, very important, but I can actually do it today with the methods that they have. I'm not going to be very specific about these things. I'm just going to throw them on the board. But in this case, the table then provides an opportunity score. And of course, you can see that this is the highest ranked thing. A lot of people ask me what the formula is. You can find it. I know our friend Mr. Burleson's on the line. He's got a book called The Statue and the Stone, and he explains this in great detail, better detail than I could possibly explain it. And it's even got this formula in it. But I'm going to stop there so that we can continue conversation or take Q&A or wherever you want to take this thing next.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone has any questions, feel free to shoot them in there. In general, I'm just curious. So how much time does the strategy product save a medtech innovator, someone that's working on, or actually, I guess also, what does the process look like without this? Because it seems like this is a great way of keeping everything organized and really front of mind. And it seems like it would be really hard without this, but nobody even has this yet. That's crazy.
There's two types of medical innovators that I know. I'll just put them into two large buckets. There's not two types. There's lots and lots of types, but two large buckets. Those medical innovators that have no idea they should be doing design controls. A lot just don't know. They're innovating a new medical technology and they just don't have any idea that this design control is a thing. And then there's those of us, myself included, that know very well we're supposed to be doing design controls, but there's just no good notebook for it. So I end up being the chef, not the chef, sorry, end up being the cook. I know I'm supposed to be doing it, but I just don't, because I'm not going to comply to stage gate and I'm not going to comply to iterative. I'm just not, it just, my life, I try to do it, my life doesn't do it. And so I say, you know what, we'll figure it out later. Everybody else in the history of this industry has figured it out. And so if you know what's coming, there's this point at which you're like, okay, we have to implement a quality system. We have to implement design controls. This is a requirement. That's a 3-month project. If you had no idea, if like a consultant comes in and says, hey, where's your design history file? And you're like, huh, what's that? Which I see a lot.
Oh,
that's a 9-month project. And pretty much everybody I've interviewed gives me an answer somewhere between 3 to 9 months to reverse engineer a design history that they didn't take really good notes along the way. They didn't build the trace matrix along the way. This is exacerbated, by the way, when there's a lot of handoffs, right? Like right now we see a lot of innovation happen in hospitals and universities, and they're handing it off to some startup company, and maybe that startup company is going through lots of turnover. There's the day that the design team has to assemble, and sometimes it's a third party. There are cases where like a contract manufacturing firm is the one that's, hey, we got to assemble your design history file. And they're trying to reverse engineer something where there are many degrees of separation from where the people that were in the hospital identifying the unmet need, the people that were coming up with the original concepts, the original like interviews, observations, all that stuff. They're literally reverse engineering it. Here's the pizza. It's the best pizza in the world. Figure out how to reproduce that. And it's a long and painful road.
Yeah, I just want to add.
I have a question here from Karen Kirsten. If you're open to taking a question. Allow her to talk. Let's see.
Oh, perfect.
I actually don't have a question. I just wanted to say, I think this is such a cool tool. I really enjoyed watching the demo. Thank you for walking us through all that.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's like you're saving people 3 to 9 months of time in a startup environment. You even mentioned it before, how funding is absolutely crucial to getting 3 to 9 months of funding. Wow.
Yeah,
Chance of actually getting towards the finish line or getting to market, I guess you could say.
it impacted our company, Core Medical Systems. Myself and the other two founders, we knew exactly what we needed to do. We sat down and took 3 months to get it done. And we missed a funding round because of time. If we had gotten done 3 months faster, we wouldn't have had a failed company. Now, do we want to point it at one thing? It was this one thing, reverse engineering design controls? No, but every minute counts, every day counts, time counts. And we lost 3 months reverse engineering our design history file.
Yeah, and to your point, design medical devices take so much time to get through all the different stages that they go through. To your point earlier, if you don't take that time to document as you go, then you have that telephone game of the handoff point from one set of observations to the next, because there will be a lot of different people that touch this thing if it truly has value and is going to benefit and get funding and all of that. And different people will come in at a later stage and see the predicate work that was done and be trying to interpret it. You want to give them as much insight as you can, documenting where you are at that point in time. All right, so Karin has a question. I'll read it off and we'll see, Andrew, if you can take it.
Sure.
So can the strategy tool be used for service development too? And how would that vary? So right now you've got it designed for medical devices.
Yeah, medical devices is our passion. It's our target audience. We're with Greenlight Guru. We're really focused on the medtech industry. There's no reason why you can't use strategy for any evolutionary process. One of the things that I can mention right now is that we're in a beta and we've launched this with what I'll call templates. So there's 9 templates that are in there. There's a few that are really specific to medical devices, like a hazard analysis, a risk assessment, the trace matrix. These are really specific to what you'd be doing for medtech. But then there's other templates in there, like a SWOT, like important satisfaction, which you could use for any industry sector. What is the number of templates we're going to have? We really want to listen to you, the beta users, because we deliberately didn't put a lot of things in there. So you won't see, say, business model canvas in there. But if we get tons and tons of people saying, hey, we'd really like to do business model canvas, then we'll put it in there. So we want to listen to what the users want as far as workflows, templates, etc.
Do you mind talking to what it looks like to add a new template to this? Is that something that, like, I guess it needs to happen internally to add a new template?
Yeah, right now our process is we as a team, we call ourselves, by the way, the Canvas GT Squad. So we hold on to the original name, their squad name, but we evaluate the priority of a new Canvas template based on the feedback from the users. And then it's a process of design, right? We're going to go through an evolutionary process of what is the layout. I can tell you right now, like our current trace matrix or traceability canvas might not be the final rendition. That is still evolving based on feedback that we're getting. We'll take some time. If it's something ready to go, like a business model canvas, that's quick because it's already designed, it's laid out. You do have to think about how we might want the table to look or what we might want the table to do, because we're implementing both a board and a table for every canvas. Does that table enable traceability like you saw? Does that table enable some score producing some output like you saw on importance and satisfaction? So there would be some work, but it's not instant. It's not like we just hit a button and launch it there. We take some time to develop it.
I was just curious of your inspiration to create Canvas GT. Seems like you've done so much of real world experience. And was it like you discovered, wow, we really need a better process for actually getting something to market and like tracking all of this? Or I'm just curious of what was the origin behind that?
I think it was stars aligning. Every stop I took along the way, including especially at Triggs, and I'll tell you that story too. Early in my career, when I was a young design engineer, I went and talked to the document management folks at my company and said, hey, I'm the design engineer. This is the standard operating procedure for design controls. And I can't really work under this system. It's constraining. It really is constraining me. And they're like, rewrite it. I was like, oh, okay. So all the FDA cares about is that you have implemented a controlled process that you repeat over time. So I actually rewrote the document to make it less constraining. You make it easier to work with. I ended up writing design control standard operating procedures. That was some of my very early consulting work, was writing those procedures for other medical device companies. Up to $1 billion medical device company, I wrote a design control process for early on. I was really impacted early on by one of the brightest, most energetic young engineers coming to join our team at Alaris Medical Systems. After a few months, he quit and I can't take it. It's like I'm trapped in a box. He was felt constrained and he quit. And when I got in front of my classroom students at NC State, I was like, we need you. We need your young, bright, innovative minds to be the future of healthcare for our nation. You have to be creative. You have to be that creative genius. You can't allow these boxes to make you miserable so that you leave our industry. So I was very passionate about keeping creativity in the process. And part of it was just freedom to do so, right? There's nothing stopping anyone from being that chef and maintaining that notebook, right? You can do both. But I was constantly looking for ways. And I've got some sketches in a notebook from months before joining Trig on this idea of using frameworks to enable evolutionary design. I wasn't calling it evolutionary design at the time, but it really wasn't until when I was at Trig, all the pieces came together. We were doing consulting, we're working with small businesses, we were using other visual collaboration platforms. We were using one called Battery, we were using another one called Mural. We evaluated all. I was evaluating dozens of different virtual whiteboard solutions. And it was listening to those that we were consulting with. Hey, we've done all this work on this whiteboard. Can this be our trace matrix? And it was man, it could be. That would be awesome.
Whoa.
It could be, right? So it's 25 years of pragmatic creativity all came together with this idea. I feel I'm still at the very beginning of this journey. It's just starting.
The idea of, and you've taught me this, that if you're not having fun designing a medical device, something's wrong and it needs to be fixed. And you're well on that journey of making it so that the joy of the creativity that you should be bringing to this can also be captured as you go, and keep it fluid and flexible, but still at the same time leave a trail so that other people can follow the breadcrumbs and be able to improve upon your work if they need to pick up on it later.
As a design engineer, my very first ever job, I went and hung out in the manufacturing floor where hand assembly of products was taking place. I would talk to the people that worked on the line, hand assembling medical devices. And they would talk to me about certain processes were easy, it made them happy, but certain processes would literally be giving them arthritis. And I'm thinking what I'm doing in CAD over here can give the person on the manufacturing floor arthritis, right? So how is that improving the quality of life? I would talk to my students about this. This is cradle to grave, improve quality of life. We want to improve the quality of life of the people that are working at the medical device companies, those people that are on the manufacturing floor making the products. We want to improve the quality of life of the people that are using the medical devices, maybe the doctors, the nurses, the caregivers, the quality of life of the people that are receiving those medical devices. What about me as the design engineer? How about the quality of my life? And so can we improve the quality of life of those people that are day to day doing medtech? Can they be having fun too?
I have never even thought of that before. Thinking about the people on the manufacturing line, right? Improving their life. That's incredible. I know we're coming up on the hour and I know there's a whole bunch of stuff we haven't talked about. So I think I'll just fast forward to our last question and we'll wrap up from there. So I'm just curious of what advice you have for a young professional that wants to become an entrepreneur and they don't really know where to start, but they're invigorated by it, but they're just raw energy at that point.
Yeah, I'm going to circle it all the way back to being an entrepreneur as a social service. We want to bring an innovation to the world. That innovation should inherently be something that improves people's lives in some way. Makes things more efficient, makes them more fun, but we're bringing something good to the world. At the same time, we're providing jobs for other people. We're creating a place where people can work and become prosperous, have families and insurance and all this stuff, right? It really is about a social service endeavor, and be ready that the decisions that you make are impacting other people's lives. People are quitting their jobs or making career choices to come and work with you. So if this is, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur because I would check that and ask yourself, why do I really want to do this?
I think on that note, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Professor DiMeo of Greenlight Guru, just thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your insights. Thank you.
My sincere pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. All right, and thanks to everybody else for joining us, and we'll sign off from there.